Hey, good evening, everybody. Sammy Thunder here. Welcome back to the Four Collectors channel here on a really nice Sunday evening. Um, and it's funny how things kind of just come about. I jump on this live stream now, and I have a friendly face jumping on as well, Mr. John Mangini. How you doing, man? I thought you weren't going to be able to make it.
How are you, Sammy? I wasn't
Good,
sure.
man.
I
I'm
wasn't
glad that
sure.
you were able to squeeze out some time to jump on this.
Yeah, good to see you.
You too. If you don't mind, I want to start off this live stream, and I feel like maybe you know this story already, but I wanted to I kind of preempted everybody in the chat that I was going to share a great story, which is a great segue to something that you already know that I bought today, but I'm going to build up to this. And it's not a guest. Everyone thinks that there's some secret guest. It's not that. It's a story. I want everybody to. I wanted to ask everybody in the chat. There's about 20 people in here. The story of the Topps Venezuelan cards, because this article that I read about 35 minutes ago is an incredible story in how the Venezuelans were how the Topps Venezuelan cards were discovered in terms of bringing them back from by U.S. collectors. Now, John, are you familiar with the collector dealer named Pat Quinn?
No.
So Pat Quinn was a guy in Chicago. Grew up in Chicago, toward more closer to like the White Comiskey Park area, and was a White Sox fan growing up, and opened up a store called the Sports Collector Store in 1976. Now, like any other dealer, they had to keep replenishing inventory, so Pat Quinn had a lot of money. So he's able to make $1 million deals here, and according to this article, it was with the Trading Card Company of Detroit, and then made another large purchase from Richard Gelman of New York. I imagine this was a repeatable process, but it looked like it was this guy Pat Quinn, Don Steinbach, and Roger Marth, and over time they moved from Chicago to LaGrange, Illinois. Fast forward to 1989. This is where things get interesting. Pat Quinn is thinking, all right, you know, we see the same Tops, the same Bowman cards, and there's nothing wrong with seeing that. It's desirable. People love it. People want it, but there's got to be more out there, I'd imagine. This is probably what Pat Quinn was thinking in his mind. So he thought, well, why not go to Venezuela on a buying trip? I don't know anybody out there. I have no idea who anybody is, or who to reach out to. But the same process pre-internet of putting ads in the newspaper, similar to what Orlando did with the penny saver, putting ad in the newspapers. He knew that Venezuela had baseball teams, and they had avid baseball fans. So maybe there's some memorabilia out there that's collectible. So Pat Quinn decided to make this trip and put in a huge ad in the newspaper, and obviously translated to Spanish, and put an ad saying, I'm going to be at this hotel called, actually, I have it right here, Hotel Tamanico. And he probably thought, okay, maybe 3 or 4 people will respond. But lo and behold, the very next day, lines out the door, and the hotel is like, no, we can't have you here. This is ridiculous. You're gonna have to leave. So Quinn steps out of the hotel, has to deal with this line, and again he's on the sidewalk. I'm imagining in my mind that this sidewalk, or this day, it's in the hottest day of the year in the summer, and just having to work with a bunch of people. But as he was going through one person at a time, he realized that these cards were not the typical cards he would see in the United States. So, the backs of the cards were a lot darker looking. The fronts of the cards were not nearly as glossy as we'd come to expect. So he was experiencing something that he's never seen before, and maybe to some, Pat Quinn might be the one that kind of tipped everybody off. But so he made a lot of purchases, and these at the time in 1989 collections were ranged anywhere between $20 to $100, depending on how big the collections were. And how do you value such a thing like that? I mean, obviously these $100 collections probably had the bigger names, and the $20 ones probably didn't have nearly as much. So, but the last customer is the part that struck me the most. It was a guy in a motorcycle who traveled 200 miles with a Luis Aparicio card in his back pocket, creased up to hell. Shows up, and the guy was disappointed that Quinn didn't want the card, but Quinn was nice enough to say, "All right, here's some gas money. I want to reimburse you for the traveling, both here and back." So, lo and behold, he was able to make these purchases and bring them back, and made repeated trips. Now, the uh, the next thing that Quinn did, was that he was a season ticket holder for the Chicago White Sox, and the Chicago White Sox were honoring some veteran ball players at the time. This would have been probably, I'm guessing, in the early '90s, and one player in particular that they were honoring was Chico Carrasqual.
Yeah.
And so Chico, he thought so. Pat Quinn had some muscle, had some pull, and was able to uh, work out a deal with he had a clubhouse guy, and he was able to interact with Chico. And granted, so Chico's English was not very good, and Pat Quinn's Spanish was awful. So he did the best he could to talk to Pat and say, "Listen, talk to Chico and say, listen, Chico, I want to offer you $5 to sign these photos of yourself, $5, and for every autograph." But he ultimately, I guess they couldn't really understand each other, obviously, because of the language barrier. But he gave him his business. Pat gave him his business card, and the next day, Chico's wife, who spoke fluent English, was able to work it out. So I imagine they did some sort of deal where the autographs sold, or Pat made money on the autographs, and Chico just made easy money signing. But then Pat came up with an idea and wanted to go with Chico to he would say he would offer Chico to pay for his travel fare to go back home to Venezuela to visit family, as long as Pat can go with him. So Pat Quinn, obviously, traveled with Chico and going on one of his buying adventures, and it was kind of like it was a perfect storm in a good way, because I don't know if Pat realized by going with Chico, he was essentially bringing an ambassador, the Babe Ruth of Venezuela, and going down with him. And so Chico served as an ambassador and served as like a public figure for a mass amount of people to come out and sell cards. But the selling of the cards for these people were secondary to being able to meet Chico Carrasqual, who was their hometown hero, their country's hero. And so Pat obviously made a killing picking up these Venezuelan cards. Chico was able to meet his loving fans, and it translated over to Chico kind of like being able to have Pat Quinn meet Luis Aparicio as well, and because I guess they remain close. All I know is ultimately from these stories is that these relationships were built over time, and it has a great ending to it. The Carrasquals and the Quinn families remained close until Carrasqual's passing in 2005. And it sounded like that Pat Quinn's he closed his shop, I want to say in the 90s, and he sold all of his Venezuelans up in, I guess, in like a 2002 or 2003. I don't know if Pat Quinn is still around with us these days, but if he is, I hope to try to reach out to him, track him down somehow. I'd love to kind of dive further into this story, because this is an article that was written by somebody, by a Sports Collectors Digest journalist who wrote this, and it's such a captivating story. So I wanted to start that off, and there's a perfect reason why I bring this up, and John knows why I bring this up, and Mookie knows why, and that is because I bought myself the 1968 Topps Venezuelan of Tom Seaver in a 5.5, and I know it's kind of tough to tell, but here's for context. This is the Topps and this is the Venezuelan, and you can kind of see the difference between the Topps version is a lot kind of a glossier and more just more vibrant, I guess you could say, and the Venezuelan is a little more faded. Jason, I'm going to bring you in. Don't worry, buddy. I see you there. And then the back, you can see the Venezuelan is a bit darker and the Topps is a little bit brighter. So that is my story. I'm going to bring Jason in as well, and we can have a full-on discussion. Hello, Jason.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hi, Jason.
Thank you guys for letting me share that story. I hope everybody enjoyed that story.
Well, that brings back a little memory for me, because how I learned about Chico was as a kid. I got one of those like TCMA Greats cards of his, and I'm not positive where I got it, but I think I got it in a baseball card collector's kit. They would put some of the greats in there. And I still remember the first time I saw that card, and that was the first time I knew about him. That was really the first time I knew about him. And because he was in a great set, he always stuck out to me as somebody, to maybe collect. Because I hadn't seen him in any other great sets before.
Apparently, from what I understand, Chico Carrasco was the first Latin American player in an All-Star game.
Oh, is that right?
I was reading up a little bit prior, and then it says in 1951. He was I'm sorry, maybe not the first. He was the first Latin American player to start in an All-Star game. Maybe skipped ahead a little bit. He might not be the first, but he was definitely the first one to start.
The first one to start. Yeah, well, his rookie card's 1960, right?
I think he's earlier. He hits home for me because he was a White Sox. I was actually looking at his 55 Bowman not too long ago.
Oh, 60 set.
I'm not sure. His rookie card looks like it's the 51 Bowman with his arms raised. Is that what
I was looking at the 55, but Sammy, you had me in the waiting room, and I was quite content with that listen because I jumped on late. And all I heard was Luis Aparicio and Chico Carrasco, and I'm a White Sox fan, so I'm like, I got to listen to that.
Oh, yeah.
So I got on a little late, but thanks for having me. And he's a guy that I actually kind of have put on my radar of collecting. My first notion of Chico was through my dad. My dad was a Sox fan in the 50s, so he was part of those teams, part of those Nellie Fox, Louis teams, mini teams. And actually, I did a video with Scott Reindeer Studios not too long ago. I think he just may have posted it the other day or today. And we were setting lineups. And the lineup was to be set of every play. All the players had to either play for the White Sox or Cleveland. And my go-to shortstop was going to be Chico.
Because he played for both, I think. He played for the Indians, too.
Yeah, he played for both. So he was going to be my go-to for sentimental value. Alomar obviously had better numbers, but since it was fun and we were picking sentimental players, I picked like Bill Melton at third base and stuff. Yeah, that's the 51, right, John?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's his rookie, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Who's the 1960 player I'm thinking? Chico Cardenas?
Oh, Cardinal?
No, that was
I'm
Jose
thinking
Cardinal.
Yeah, I'm thinking Jose Cardinal.
Man, I could still picture that 1960 card.
Your knowledge is overwhelming. I'll never get it. Yeah, that's a great card.
That's
Cardenas or something like that. But yeah, this is a great card.
And he's got some great Redman cards too. I was looking at a few of those. So
I'm getting up in years. Sometimes these players' names they mix up in my head. They're both Chicos. In fact, that was my nickname growing up, Chico.
All the more reason to collect them.
My good friends still call me Chico.
That's excellent.
Just going to catch up with the chat a little bit because I was going through that story and there's a lot going on. So, hello, Clean Cheap Shots, Hitman 23, Obviously, Mangini the GOAT. Yes, vintage um, Peacemaker cards. Hello, a great guest. I don't know if it's Jason and Mangini. I would say they're both great guests. Yes, baseball time traveler. Hello, Steel City DW. I think he mentioned that he's a big Venezuelan collector. Orlando, obviously. Hello. Um, just catching up here. Gary Peters, hello. Joe Wood. Joe Wood was the star of the YouTube get together. He was like wheeling and dealing. He had some great cards when he was showing them. You remember that, right, Jason?
Absolutely.
Well, yeah.
Quiet man, but a fantastic collection.
Detroit collector. Hello, Mr. Mangini from Random Esports.
Hello.
So Orlando's saying that's what happened in Cuba. Big money collectors contacted Rolando, who was largest Cuban collector in Cuba, bought him out. That's interesting. Does that story wind up in Garfield, New Jersey? Yeah, Mookie was there to witness my purchase. Actually, there's a funny story about this. I'm not going to mention how much I paid for it. Mookie knew how much, but I wanted to get it for $25 less, and the dealer we kind of split the difference essentially. I didn't really want to move $25 more, but I did. And then Mookie was like, don't worry about it. I'm gonna buy something for $25 at your table, and it will offset everything. So, which he did. I didn't. He didn't have to, but he did. So Orlando's saying that Rolando runs the Cuban Hall of Fame in Cuba. That's pretty cool. But yeah, everybody. Yeah, then Don is here, Venezuelan Seaver. Yes, sir.
Okay, you're talking about Venezuela. I'll show you the only set I know of from El Salvador.
El Salvador.
1928 Tabacalera.
What do you have some? Do you have? Oh, I was going to say, do you have some to show?
John McGraw.
And that was distributed in El Salvador?
Yep. Tabacalera.
How many cards in the set, John, or is that it?
There aren't many. There's a beautiful Babe Ruth in the set. There's a Mathewson. There's one with, I think, Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. Very, very rare. This is the only one PSA has ever graded.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's insane.
So now we have to figure out the story of how cards from El Salvador got up to the United States.
I like having this conversation because I don't have any Venezuelans. I don't have anything extremely rare, but I think it was Greg and Midlife Cards did a video on, influencers potentially influencing people to buy or purchase certain stuff. And I kind of got his point when we're talking about maybe, some of the bigger channels, but in the vintage community, I don't really look at it as like, you're influencing me. This is my education to learn more and pick up stuff that I didn't know about if I so choose to, right? So, I've been seeing a lot of Venezuelans, doing some research on them. And, at the end of the day, I want a well-rounded collection. And my thought is I need to have one of those in my collection, and it doesn't have to be a monster player, just somebody that I like or somebody. I was looking at a Bill Mazeroski, and I'm like, oh, that's an awesome card. So I think it was a 67.
I was going to suggest a 67. That card's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a great looking card.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, I need to
get. Yes, because the Venezuelans, they're a little bit of a step down looks wise from the regular tops, right? And then the common thing was for kids to put them in scrapbooks, so they almost always have back damage. I mean, if you get anything over a 2 or a 3, you're really doing well in those. If you're into that sort of thing, they're not going to be for everybody. If you like, and not everybody likes old beat up cards, but that's the beauty of Venezuelans to me, is I can collect like a kid, where I don't have to care about condition. I got some that are wrinkled, like the kid had in his back pocket, and they're awesome.
Right.
I have a 66 Clemente. It's a 1, but it looks phenomenal. Like the front's great. It just has a little bit of remnants on the back from a scrapbook, and that's just how they are. they're really fun to collect, and they're certainly way more scarce.
Right. And I get a kick out of it. I think I just saw a video today. We met him at Strongsville, Sammy. It was Aaron. He just started his channel shortly after getting back from Strongsville. I don't know if you've seen his channel yet. It's Value Vintage Cards. And
Not yet.
he was with Joe, and they were talking to us at the table on Saturday, I think, or the night of the meetup.
Yeah.
But he's got an incredible collection, and he showed a brown back Speaker on his video today. I mean, just some really nice stuff. I mean, incredible stuff. So there's people out there, right? I mean, we're a community here, and I'm somewhat new to it, and you kind of just follow this. But there are people out there with amazing collections that we know don't even know they exist.
Are you guys familiar with the 77 Venezuelans?
No.
I only know that in the 70s they started making stickers.
Yeah, well, the 77 Venezuelans, I guess they're stickers, but they're not a sticky back. They're really thin. And like I said, in Venezuela, the thing was to glue them into albums. And they're blank backs. They're really, really thin, like a stamp or something. And they look just like the 77 tops, but they're kind of cut off, like the top's cut off. I have several of them. I could go get them to show you, but you could tell right away what they are. If you weren't familiar with them, you might think that they were just, somebody took a copy of them or something, and printed them out. Because, like I said, they're thin and cut off. But those are tough to find. Now,
cost-wise, John, in comparison to like the 67s, are they relatively cheaper or equal value? I'm not talking for value of if I'm buying it is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'd say the 60s are going to be worth more because the 77 sets aren't worth that much, to begin with, and you don't have any Clementes or Aaron's or Mays or anything in 77. So. Right. I have some Pirates, Dave Parker, Manny Sanguian, Al Oliver, Richie Hebner, those kinds of things. But certainly a Nolan Ryan would probably sell for a lot, Pete Rose, players like that.
Okay. But if I was looking for more common players or guys that I'm interested in, maybe the 77 is the way to go because it might be more affordable.
Yeah, so the thing is just because something is scarce doesn't mean it's in high demand. I see these cards all the time. I'm watching a card right now. It's a top grade of a test issue for tops, but, it's not Mays or Aaron or Clemente. So I've been watching it for a very long time, hoping the price comes down. And just because something's scarce doesn't mean people want it. We have so many things to stretch our hobby dollars. There's only so much you can get, right? And right now, there's just a craze for everybody to buy the big cards, 10, 15,000, like the big cards. And I'm just picking up stuff for next to nothing that's not those big cards. I mean, honestly, right. Like great players, rare stuff, but apparently nobody wants that anymore.
Watch my channel. There's no big cards picked up. John. They're $5 cards getting picked up.
Yeah, this one card. I mean, I really want it. It's not cheap, but it's cheap. You know what I mean, for what it is.
Right.
But you can't buy everything at once, I guess. But it's just blowing my mind. Some of the deals I'm getting. I have a big one coming, Sammy. I showed it to you.
Yeah.
I don't like the word Grail card. I think. Number one, if you're going to use that term, it should just be one card. You can't have 200 grails. So what I call them dream cards. They're not a grail. So like if I had one grail card, that would be like the T206 Hannes Wagner. I'm not going to call 199 other cards my grail card. So I call them a dream card, but it's a card I wanted since I was a little kid and saw it in probably 1982. And I finally got one for a good price.
Oh, coming your way. So not with you yet.
Coming my way, baby.
All right, in a video soon. I'll keep an eye out.
Coming to a video near you soon.
So Steel City DW mentioned this. Do you consider Retorados real Vennies? Some don't. I take offense to that, as I have one here of my man, Christy Mathewson.
Well, yeah, of course I consider them real Vennies. I got one staring at me right now.
But why would they? Why would they not be considered real? Like what? Why? When he mentions,
let's see what we're talking about. So what? Those are greats. So maybe that's what he means.
Yeah, is that
they're greats?
They were issued they're non-playing days cards for some of the people, right? I mean, obviously Christie was non-playing days, so maybe.
However, if you give me 1 minute here, I just want to explain for those who don't know.
I'll just show the
Most
card.
of your viewers are savvy and already know this, but for the ones that don't know, I'll share this.
The nice thing I'll say about this card in particular is the lack of paper loss, which was normal to expect on these cards because they were placed in albums. That was the normal thing to do. So the lack of paper loss on this, to me, makes it all the more special because clearly I'm hoping that nobody took the time to try to remove paper loss on it, but by soaking it. But all that being said, I think it's kind of cool knowing that if it was held by a collector in Venezuela and they didn't put it in the album because they wanted to preserve it somehow, I hope that's the story.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, these aren't put in albums as often because I have several of them and they don't have the back loss like the like some of the other sets.
Let's
but
take a look at yours.
This was a unique set. So, this is the retired player set. I guess it was a subset in here. And this is what the regular card looks like. This is Louis Tillon.
That's great. That's a great. Oh, look, I love that.
There's cool. A great. I have Dave Concepcion too. That's another great one in the set. But as you can see, nice clear back. This also has a clear back, but I have it stuck to a magnet board, so that's a magnet tape. but neither one of them have paper loss.
I'm hoping,
and I don't think my any of my other ones do either for some reason. But this was a different type of a set. This is not Topps Venezuela. In fact, I don't know who makes this set. If Topps made it or who, I actually don't know. Orlando, you know that one? But anyway, this set is it's a subset of this. So these were the retired players, and these were the regular players.
What year was that, John?
67.
67. Oh, that's 67.
Yeah. Now my one of my the one I want from the set more than anything is the Sandy Koufax. He has the hand with the ball coming at you, and that is he's the only retired player in there that he had just retired, right? So he retired in 66 at the end of the 66 season. So it's practically a playing days card.
Right.
It's not like getting a Ty Cobb in 2024. So at least it's of the close. It's kind of like the Ted Williams in the 1960 Fleer Great set, right?
Right.
That's the extra special one because that was his last year. It's still a playing days card.
That's considered his last playing days, is it not? The Ted Williams, the 60 Fleer, in my opinion.
Yeah, because in '59 he signed with Fleer and he had that whole Ted Williams set, so he wasn't it didn't have a Topps card, and so that carried over. In 1960 he was on the Fleer card, and yeah, he played in 60, so that was his last season. So technically it's a playing days card. That's his last one.
Sure.
Unless you count his manager cards, like in '69. He has the manager card in 69. I think that's his next card. I think. And then he has that one with who is it? Mike Epstein. He's teaching him how to hit. That's kind of a cool card in 69 too.
Is that was he with it was the manager of the Senators, wasn't it, in 69? Yeah.
Yeah, and I know he has a 1971 card as a manager, right? I don't know about a 70. Drawing a blank on that one. I wasn't real into manager cards as a kid, but for young people, when you see the old great players, no matter what they're on, right? You want them, whether it's a manager card 20 years later or whatever, because when you're a kid, at least when we were growing up, you couldn't have a real Ted Williams from his playing days. These kids today seem to be able to acquire these things. I don't know.
They open up that Zion case and they got more in there than I have in my entire collection. And
I shouldn't say that because I had all those players. Of course, cards weren't worth what they are today.
Right.
I was buying them for $6, $5, $4.
I do want to mention Orlando brought up something Topps licensed but printed in Venezuela bad paper. So in this same article, I just want to mention that the cards and Topps involvement had not been common knowledge in the U.S. Topps apparently sent their first few print sheets initially to Benco, a printer in Venezuela. A stick of gum was sold along with 4 cards. Cards were produced irregularly in the 1960s and evolved into stickers in the early 70s since the collectors there like to put their cards into albums anyway.
Yeah.
And it said hobby pioneer Buck Barker probably dabbled in cards from Venezuela, but they were not generally known in the U.S. hobby. Of course, collectors in Venezuela didn't know that they were being discovered.
Well, they also had the 1977 Mexican in football. You familiar
Really?
with those?
That was actually Aaron showed his Walter Payton.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah, they're pricey too, right?
Yeah, they are pricey. I mean, when you're saying pricey, I mean they're not 15,000, but they're pricey.
Did they take the same model of using the same design at
They
top?
look just like look just like the 77 Topps, but just
they look just like them, except they're written in Spanish.
Right.
What? And I just had those sitting around. Where are they? Because I have the wrappers I was going to show.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the Seaver again because I was not anticipating buying the Venezuelan Seaver because I'm always about the aesthetic of a card, and I thought, well, I have the 68 Seaver Topps, and it looks great. But then I started thinking, I'm like, I'll get the Venezuelan Seaver 68, and then I'll sell my Topps 68 because I know I can always get that one back again. But the Venezuelan ones only come up so often.
Yeah, but would you? Yours is a high grade in your Topps, is it not?
It's a 6.5. I mean, This is the one that I have. That's a 6.5. But that Venezuelan, man. I mean, that one. Like as far as the look of it, they look very much alike. But I'm okay with moving this one now and holding on to this one and putting it in its place in here. Because again, it's one of those things where I can always get the 68 Topps Seaver. In fact, I think I have like 3 in my inventory right now for shows. So if I ever want to just keep one of those, I could.
See, that's just out of my realm. I can't sell cards. I don't really trade them. I almost traded at Strongsville and backed off of it. And the guy hit me up the next day. He said, "Do you still want to sell it?" I said, "No, I'm not going to sell it." And it's not in me.
Hey, you want to see the wrappers from those?
Yeah.
Yes.
They had 5 different ones. They had O.J. Simpson.
Those have got to be more rare than the cards, even.
And Brian Sipe. And Bob Greasy.
Now, where did those are the?
Who was number 10 for them in '77? Was that Roman Gabriel?
For who?
I'm sorry, for the Eagles. It was before it was before Ron Jaworski.
It was before Ron?
Well, he didn't wear 10.
I thought he did. I thought Jaworski was 10. I thought he was. I could be wrong.
He was?
I thought.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I could be wrong.
I don't know. Somebody will know in the chat. That might be. Is that Roman Gabriel? And then Steve Bartkowski. Remember him?
Yeah.
So those are the labels. But here's interesting. So I have a whole bunch of these, baby. This is Dwight White, and you can see he was a defensive end. So on the tops it says defensive end, but here it's an L. And you can see how they spell Steelers. It's all in Spanish. So the positions are in Spanish too, and I don't know how you say defensive end in in Spanish, but it's an L.
How did you get the wrappers, John?
Oh, I don't know. I got these years ago.
Like I
try to get wrappers from every set I can.
I would think that'd be harder than the cards even. this
You ever see a Diamond Stars wrapper?
an original?
Hello, Adam.
Yeah, I have a 33 Sport Kings wrapper. I have a 34 Gaudi wrapper.
That's cool.
Yeah, I have some old tobacco wrappers too. Here's a 1960 leaf wrapper, and these came with marbles, and they call them baseball photos.
What is so? Where is that from?
60
This
leaf.
is a 1960 leaf.
Wow. Yeah. Are those like you said they came with marbles?
Yeah,
Is that the one with like
I
the
think
head,
it's the only baseball cards that came with marbles.
is that the marbles that had the baseball players like inside? You can look in them and because I've seen those
Oh,
before.
no! I have those if you want them. Those are 1969 Chem Toy.
Okay. Yeah,
So those are Super Balls, and it's pretty interesting. So Super Bowls, and I remember when I was a little kid, you used to bounce them; they go 30 feet in the air.
Oh yeah.
And they were so much fun. And I had this favorite yellow one, and I lost it. I grew up in the country; I had a big yard, and I lost it in the high grass. And I looked for like days for this thing. I looked for hours that day. And my mom used to tell me, if you lose something, pray to St. Anthony and you'll find it. And I used to do that. And this one particular instance, I just never could find this Super Bowl. But these things were so popular, and they got to be popular, before my time in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. So that's when they were making those. So there was a guy with the NFL, and he was trying to come up with a name for the NFL championship. They decided to have this new championship. So he saw his son playing with the Super Bowl, and that's how we get the term Super Bowl.
Super cool, right? I think I've heard that actually. That's pretty cool.
He named it.
So are you going down the rabbit hole, Sammy?
Oh, here it is. Here's the Diamond Stars wrapper. If you haven't seen it, it's kind of see-through.
There's a lot going on with that one.
It's real wax. I mean, it's real wax paper.
Yeah. So it's kind of ornate. It's kind of like the Art Deco style of cards, right?
Right.
It fits it well.
That's kind of cool.
Hey, while we're on wrappers, I have something cool to show you.
He doesn't stop, does he?
I wouldn't either if I had it all.
Yeah, I want Dom to come on. Dom is here now. I want Dom to come on to show his Rod Carew. I was there when he bought that one. That was a really cool purchase that he made.
Venezuelan as well?
Yeah. So I think it's Venezuelan. I don't know if it's, I can't remember, but I want to say it's Venezuelan. There was a 72, 71. I can't remember. But hopefully, I sent him the link, so hopefully he'll jump on. So Dom, you're watching. Jump on.
Are you familiar with this?
No idea.
Is that are those like the premiums? Was that the premium?
Yeah, this is 1934 Quaker Oats Premium.
Okay.
That's incredible.
And this is the original envelope it came in.
Jesus. Yeah, I think I actually learned about that. I think you've shown it before, and then I looked it up as soon as you showed it on a video in the past.
So
these used to be so cheap. They were like, these used to go for about $120 before the boom. I don't know what they go for now.
So how do you get the premiums? I mean, obviously you send something to Quaker Oats and they send something back.
Yeah, so premiums, how that always worked. And my grandmother was a refunder, and she used to get me items, so I know how this works. But premiums for the most part, you would send in proofs of purchase, and that's how it worked. So you would collect so many. I don't know how many. It would vary depending on the company or whatever. So you'd have to collect 5 proofs of purchase off the box, and you would mail them in, usually with postage, and they would mail you the premium that you were mailing in for. Now, sometimes the cards themselves were the coupons, right? Like I have a 1926 Babe Ruth Spalding, and I have the coupon to go with it. So you would send in your cards, and they would send you a 10-cent coupon for sporting goods. And that's probably why those cards are so scarce, because, you know, kids back then probably needed a glove or a ball or a bat or whatever more than they needed a card, right? In the in the 1920s. So that's pretty much how they worked. Now, when the cards themselves were the premium, and those were in different ways. Sometimes you would turn the cards in. Sometimes they would poke a hole in the card, like your Honey Boy cards. You'll see them with a hole in them, or your what's that Miller, where they cut the bottom off the cards, and that's how they redeemed them. Your Lake to Lake, they would have a hole punch sometimes when you would redeem them, so you couldn't redeem them twice. But when you had to collect a whole set of cards to send in for some fabulous item, a lot of times the manufacturers would hold one back. They'd short print one card so that it made it nearly impossible for you to complete the set and send in to get the prize. And as you're looking through checklists and you study these old vintage sets, those are the ones that are super rare. In some cases, there's like only one known to exist, kind of thing. And that's why.
Wasn't that the 33 Gaudi set? Didn't they do that with one card? They held one card back.
Oh, the Nap Ladgeway?
The Nap Ladgeway, right.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's another card I always wanted.
So I'll show some really, really cool cards I came to today at the Garfield show. I'm going to show this on the weekend recap that I'll do tomorrow. But, I mean, and I saw these. These are 77 O-Pee-Chees. So I'll show this first one. I'm going to go full screen on this one just so but I mean, a really nice looking Nolan Ryan. In the back, you got that very light colored background on the O-Pee-Chee. So there's Nolan Ryan. This one is the beautiful looking Hudson, George Brett, and finally the Johnny Bench. Now, generally, you know, I don't generally go after the late 70s cards, but when I see the O-Pee-Chees in a condition like that, I'm never going to say no to that. And, of course, I can't help myself. You know what I'm about to show. I always buy this whenever I see it. It was there for the taking. This is the third raw Seaver 68 that I have, and because they just, you know, they don't go, you know, they're not that expensive outside, I guess, of the Venezuelan, or in the O-Pee-Chee, I suppose. Are
you putting those O-Pee-Chees in your inventory, Sammy?
Are
you grading them, or what was your thought with them?
I don't know what, you know. I don't know whether or not to send them in for grading. I haven't really thought too much. And this is the last one. I bought a 60 Hank Aaron as well. Okay. I mean, the intention was to put them in the inventory so that, you know, I can find a home for them. But they look so good that I was willing to roll the dice on sending maybe even like the Nolan Ryan one in just to see what happens. But it'd be like the Raleigh Fingers 70 that I was going to submit, but I didn't. I didn't end up sending that one in.
Yeah, because I was talking about buying that off of you before you sent it in.
It's still available. Actually, I think I have it in my.
I have the card, but yours looks.
Got a box here, man.
Well, the only reason I was asking about those O-Pee-Chees is that 77 Brett looked really nice. So I was going to call you on the side after this and just say, hey, what's that going for?
Yeah, I gotta do some legwork on that, but I also picked this up as well at the Fish Kill show. I'll go full screen on this one. Yeah, it's a nice looking 59 Koufax.
That's right up that's high end for me. I'm a 3 and a 4 guy, so that's beautiful.
These actually don't go for a huge amount, so it just depends.
I don't get it. I actually think that, you know, right now I'm working on the 56 Hall of Fame run. And as soon as that's done, I'm jumping at 59. And 59 is so much more affordable. And I don't understand. The background colors on that set is phenomenal. I mean, I think the photos are phenomenal. I think the coloring scheme with all the different colors is awesome. That's going to be my next project, Hall of Fame run on the 59s. I think.
You get the Pepto-Bismol Gibson.
Yeah, right.
So you guys are talking about the O-Pee-Chee. That's another set that, man, people didn't want it in the old days. And now people are realizing how much more rare those cards are. Those O-Pee-Chee. It was funny though. Nobody wanted them back in the day. I was like the only one buying them up. I love the O-Pee-Chees, and I love the rough cuts. Because that's another one where Topps basically licensed to the printer up in Canada, right? So they were printed up there. But do you guys know the first O-Pee-Chee baseball cards?
No idea. I haven't looked it up before.
I have no clue.
So they are the 1937 O-Pee-Chee. They're very scarce.
Man. Let's go. Let's look at
this. That you've shown those. I should have known that. I've seen those.
Rogers Hornsby there. So there's a DiMaggio in this set, and because it's a 37, it sells for a fortune. Here's a Hank Greenberg.
You know what?
There's a Lefty Grove.
Those are expensive too, though, John. Those, right? I mean, those aren't.
They're not Joe DiMaggio expensive. People go Google over Cocoa Puffs rookie cards.
I want to say that Brian, and Brian could correct. He's not. I don't think he's here, but he can correct me if he watches this. But I swear that he was, when we were driving to Strongsville, he was mentioning that he was looking for one of those Greenbergs.
I can't believe he doesn't already have one.
He might have one. I might
Greenberg be super collector.
I thought he was looking for the 41 play ball Greenberg with the bunting in the background.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, I think I saw his video prior to it, and he was possibly targeting.
Man, I think he has like 13 of those.
I could be wrong.
No, he's here, man. Brian, so Brian's in the chat.
Brian, don't you have like 13 41 play ball Greenbergs?
I'd say if Brian wants to jump on, Brian's more than welcome to.
Well, that O-Pee-Chee and the Diamond Stars, and of course the 34 Gaudy, those are three of his most sought cards.
Yeah.
I have two of the 41 play ball Greenbergs.
That is the one with the bunting, like it's got
12
in the background, correct?
He has 12 of them.
I told you. I was off by one.
Remarkable. Oh man, but it's pretty cool. The OP. I mean, I had no idea that the O-Pee-Chees go back that far.
And they're good. They're cool.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So they had hockey cards, but those were the first baseball ones.
And I wonder how they sold. I mean, obviously baseball wasn't there at that time. I mean, well, it was there, but it wasn't like they didn't have any any major league teams there at that point.
Well, it's interesting because there were Canadian issues, and of course they're all scarce because that's not what people were into back then. They had this was a Canadian issue. Well, I have two of them here. These are from 1912, I believe. The Imperial Tobacco. Here's an Iron Joe McGinnity and a Chick Gandil from that set.
Iron Joe McGinnity, didn't he played for Toronto, like on the T206?
Yeah. These are let's see, Newark. He played for Montreal here.
Yeah.
Jersey City. So these were minor league cards. So this was after Iron Joe's playing days, and it was early days for Chick Gandil. So this was pre Black Sox scandal. And then they had this what is it, WM George what's the first letters, Patterson. This is a really rare, scarce set, very rare. These cards are tough. These are 1922. They're also from Canada, so all of them are rare from the vintage era.
Interesting. Makes you
these minor league cards are pretty cool when they have a good player, so this is Epstein. He played for my Pirates, so he played in the pros and in Major League Baseball. And then there's a what's his name? There's one I need to get that played in MLB, and that is Joseph. Oh, who knows it? I'm drunk. Joseph Kelly. Joe Kelly.
I was gonna say you're probably the only one who knows it.
Joe Kelly.
Joe Kelly. That's I think that's
for the
Dodgers
one I need. Or pitch for the Dodgers. Remember that? Yeah, Joe Kelly. Dom's gonna show his Rod Carew. Show it.
Dom!
When Sammy Thunder calls you, you have to answer it, and
absolutely.
That's where I am with this. So I picked this up at the Milford Card Show from my
I
good
was there
friend
for it.
Michael.
That was awesome.
Oh,
So
that's
it's a
beautiful.
1972 Topps Venezuelan sticker. Well, it's not Topps, but SGC labeled it as Topps. I don't think Topps distributed these.
Dom, is there any way you can flip the image so that you're not, because it looks like it's backwards?
Gotcha.
I don't know if it's. It doesn't matter either way because we can still see the card and we can read right to left.
Wait, who is it? I'm having a hard time seeing it.
Yeah, is that better now?
It's let's see, it's Warek Dar.
It's Rod Carew, right?
It's right.
Yeah, it's Rod Carew. I just flipped the camera on.
Oh man,
there,
that's a sweet pickup, Dom.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, so
sweet pickup.
I got it graded by SGC at the National in Chicago, and they designated it as Topps Venezuelan, which that's actually a different set from 1972.
They get
did
those
Topps,
names wrong all the time. Drives
yeah,
me
it's a little bit of a crapshoot with that stuff, but I'm just happy that I have the card and it's protected, and I got a good deal on it. So.
I want to know if they don't even know what it is, how they can grade it.
Here he goes.
Fair question, John.
Well, I mean, I have
put
this
the
Ray
quarter in him.
Dandridge over here, and they misgraded it from a Cuban set, and they label it's from a much more rare set. The numbers don't even match up, so I don't know how they make such a mistake. But I ain't sending it in because there's not too many of them, and it might get lost or damaged. I'd rather crack it out.
I can't remember the name of the seller who sold the Carew. He shows up from time to time at Connecticut shows. What's his name again?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, his name is Michael Zietz. He does a lot of stuff on Facebook too. Really nice guy, and he's super into Venezuelans. He has a huge Venezuelan PC himself, and whenever he gets good deals on Venezuelans, he doesn't want to keep for himself. He buys them, grades them, sells them. So he moves a lot of Venezuelan stuff as well, which is fun to find.
Now, Dom, you might have that card, but do you have a Lance Armstrong?
No, I'm pretty anti-steroids over here. But
we're gonna need to get Jake in here now.
68 bazooka sitting there.
What's that?
You still got the 68 bazooka sitting there.
Better not have a Seaver, man. Don't make me fall out of my chair now.
I have him over here.
Of course, I got the Seaver, man. I'm gonna show that Seaver right now.
No, I don't think there was a 68 Seaver, was there?
There was.
In the bazooka?
Yeah, there was one. It's there's a box selling right now for like $5,000 on eBay. I was hoping you guys, like the vintage community, could pull together some funds for me.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the 68s are tough, right? And like I want the Clemente, but it just sells for stupid money.
Yeah, the Drysdale was nice looking.
I have a real nice Bob Veal.
I just like the way
Bob Veal fan for my Pirates, and I love this Matty Alou. I just shipped this.
I like the way that they're tall and thin.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
They're really
I think
unique.
cool.
Yeah, because they'd have the baseball tips in the middle, and Yaz is only on the baseball tips in the middle. He doesn't have a side panel card in 68. He only is on the baseball tips. It's like a weird thing that.
That's odd.
I saw one on eBay. It was a McCovey, and it had the stamp on it from like the store, like the price stamp or some kind of stamp.
Oh yeah,
on the actual card.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about these cards. They were distributed. These bazooka boxes were just out in the open. They could be handled before you bought them.
Yep.
Like the cereal boxes where you cut the hostess, very easily damaged, stained, whatever. That's the beauty of vintage baseball cards. Everybody's just so used to getting 10s that a lot of people don't appreciate that stuff anymore.
I got a bazooka for everybody.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Hey, I have that one.
Are we bazooka friends?
Yeah, do you have the Hank Aaron? That's
no, it's the only bazooka that I have, man.
Oh, that's yeah.
I don't. My collecting style now is Willie Mays, Seaver, Ryan, Mathewson. Those are my 4 guys.
Yeah, I mean that's a fabulous one. Not one you see every day. Do you have the Mays Home Run Derby?
No, and I am not going to hold my breath in finding one because if I didn't see one at Strongsville. I did, however, see a binder full of them, but I was questioning their authenticity because the front looked way too glossy, and I was curious if I don't know enough about the card, but I was curious. And
Well,
Don,
they did remake them. I think you could
yeah,
probably pretty easily tell, but yeah, you would have to be careful if you're not familiar with them because they definitely remade them. So those cards are listed as 1959. However, I believe they were distributed in 1960,
hmm
and they were a lot of times given out at car dealerships, and you will oftentimes find stamps on the back with a car dealer. And I found an Ernie Banks with a car dealer from my hometown. I couldn't believe it. I had to get it.
Oh, that's cool. That is
That's sweet.
cool.
So Dan was able to solve the mystery. He probably looked through that same binder that I did, and they were fake. Maybe not fake, but just reprinted.
That's fake.
Yeah.
I mean, why else? I don't know. I'm not a
Well,
big
I mean,
fan
they
of,
reissued them. They reissued them.
I'm not a big fan of reprints unless they clearly, like, totally have a different back, clearly say reprint on the back, because there are so many new collectors, and it just confuses the hell out of them. And Topps confuses the hell out of them too, because there are so many different cards. For example, of the 1972 design. They mix them in with archives, they mix them in with heritage, they mix them in with regular, whatever. And even for somebody like me that's been collecting all these years, I have no idea when I see one of those modern cards with a 1972 design, what the heck set it came from. It could have come from the main heritage, but not necessarily. It could have come from archives, all kind of different things. And it's like, how many times do we have to regurgitate these over and over? It's I don't know. It's like an Avengers or a Spider-Man movie. We're making Spider-Man 59 now.
But yeah, at the Garfield show today. I mean, the Venezuelan deceiver that I bought was bought from this guy named Brian Fish, and Brian Fish, he sells online a lot. I don't know. The only time I ever see him at shows is at the Garfield show. But this guy has like a couple of display cases dedicated to just Venezuelans. He probably has the entire Retorado set in completion.
Yeah, nice.
Which it'll be in my recap video tomorrow. But I bought that from him today, and he is one of only two that has a '68 Venezuelan Nolan Ryan rookie that is autographed by both Ryan and Koosman. And he told me that before he got it graded, his buddy sent the card down to Texas to get it signed by by Nolan Ryan's foundation. And he was still in awe that the card came back in one piece. Obviously, you're sending a 50, he sold the card, or he sold a non-autographed SGC one for, I think he said he sold it for like $13,000.
Yeah, so you brought up something I've been wanting to make a video on, and just or go live with somebody and just bring it up, because I've been watching these videos lately of the people that tell you how to make money in sports cards, and now they are widely publicizing to do TTMs and then turn around and sell them. And so there's going to be more people doing TTMs, and I'm just curious, do you think that is going to make some of these ball players, that if they see this kind of stuff out in the open like this, not want to sign as often? Because I know back in the day, Lynn Swan, he's a really hard signature to get, because in the early days of eBay, he believed that everybody was going to sell his crap on eBay, so he just stopped signing. What are your thoughts on that? Like, just promoting that as a business strategy?
That is 100% going to happen. It's going to stop. It's going to prevent people from signing. It already has, depending on what it is, right? Who was it at the? It was at the Nationals where someone did a video where there was an upcharge if Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was signing his rookie card. If it was any other card, it was a cheaper price than the rookie card. So those are the kind of things that are going to happen, or people or players themselves are just going to get pissed off enough and say, I'm not doing this anymore. So the point of this is gone now, because if someone's reselling it for 4 times the value, what's the point? If they're getting $5 or $10, because I watch these, I'm not a TTM guy, but I watch a lot of the guys who are, and it's $5 or $10 for certain players, and they're thrilled when they come back. And if someone goes onto the open market and sells that for $50 and a player catches wind, would you want to be signing anymore? No, I'll sign for.
Yeah, I mean, I got a little triggered watching this because it's they're starting to promote this. This is your business strategy, is this bug all these players, get their autographs, and then sell them. And I don't know, if I was a player, I might stop signing because of that. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah,
I'm not here to start a business for you or whatever, like to take advantage of my good nature of sitting here for 3 hours every day signing for fans, because these people aren't fans.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm not a huge autograph collector. I respect the people who are. That's cool. It's just not my thing. And part of the reason is things like that. And prices going up. You go to shows now, and what used to be $50 or $80 to get an autograph is $300 now. I'm like,
yeah, because they know you could turn around and sell it for thousands, like a
Right.
Derek Jeter rookie card. What's he charge to sign that? $1,700 or something? Because he knows that you're gonna, if it could sell for more than that.
Right.
Orlando
I don't know.
Sanders-
This autograph craze is just going through the roof, right? Everybody wants these autographs. The prices are going through the roof, and hell, we don't even know if they're real. You don't even know if they're real.
Bob has arrived.
Activate Mangini rant. The quarter has been inserted already.
Actually, yeah. So Dan mentioned that Sandy Koufax's private live signing is $1,000, and I mean, obviously, getting Koufax's autograph is really difficult to do.
That's the thing, though, because he was one of the few guys that, like John said, kind of took a step back and signed less because he didn't want it to be out there as much and didn't want to be bothered with it and stuff. Wanted there to be a premium for his signature, and now he's kind of cashing in with that. But you can still get certified Koufax signatures on eBay for well under $1,000. Yeah. And it's not like you're meeting him in person. These are private signings. So I try to find the balance with it, because there is the experience at a show that you get to briefly interact and meet the player. And like John said, you only know it's real if you see them sign it with their own hand. So those things are built into the show. But I don't understand the private signing versus the TTM, where those kind of where that's going to fall out with these guys' prices and how often they sign and what they sign for price wise. Like, that's just, it seems like they're just kind of throwing darts out there and seeing if people will pay.
Yeah, I just saw somebody was in one of our threads. Somebody sent me 2 cards. They're like, "What's wrong with these cards?" They were 2 totally different players, but they had the exact same sticker auto from Topps. We were joking around. They got their fathers mixed up, because a lot of those players, their family members signed for them, and that's just fact.
I'm just sending out an invite to Jake to jump on so that Dom and Jake can do an argument.
Yeah, I was gonna say I might have to leave for him to hop on.
No. You can hop on.
So you could get somebody else on. But before I do that, Dom, trivia question time, buddy.
Oh boy.
You ready? Who holds the record for most doubles in a single season?
Oh, in a single season. I was gonna say all time is Speaker.
Right.
Dang. Freddie Freeman almost broke it last year. Oh. Is he in the Hall of Fame?
Hang on a second.
I think he only has 2 cards.
I'm squinting.
Earl Webb.
Okay.
He has a 29 and 30 Z-Nut. This is the 1930.
Why do you have that in his screw down?
Oh man, these things are great.
He has that in the Aaron Davis Museum screw down.
30 years later, and they all graded high, baby.
That thing weighs.
You guys are smoking crack. No, these are very wrinkled and they're very thin. They're like, they're called coupons. They're very thin. Yeah. So I like these for like stamps, silks, and really thin cards.
I'll come back to that in a second.
Because I don't send in for grading.
Dom, show that again, because
that's okay. You told me Venezuelans were the topic. John's on here, so I brought this one.
I do
Venezuelan sticker.
I
Dave
do
Parker.
have that one, Dom. I have Dave Parker, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Listen, but yeah, that's what I was talking about. Now those are blank bag, right? If you want to show that.
Yeah, they're blank bag.
Because by this point they were just meant to be in
no way.
I want to take a second to introduce the commissioner of the Steven Sports Card Fan Club president, none other than Legends Never Die, Jake Brewer. Jake, welcome to the show.
I know it's a very rare appearance. We're gonna look at some rare cards.
We're gonna look at some rare cards tonight. Absolutely.
Okay, Jake, trivia question from one of my recent videos. What's the only card ever issued by a sardine company?
You better know this. I watched that one, but I don't remember what it's called.
It was 2 days ago. Was the video, or 3 days ago?
I've actually watched that one already. Yeah.
Yeah.
Neptune Sardines, baby. Jimmy Pearson.
But you didn't. But proof that I watched.
Great name.
You don't know if it was actually issued with the sardines or not, but it was a sardine company.
I'm sure it wasn't issued with the sardines, dude. It smelled like crap.
It smelled like crap, man. Come on.
It had to be a premium.
The White Sox, Jimmy Pearsall. He had like a lot of. I think you said it, John, on your video. He had like a lot of mental issues and.
Yeah, well, he was coming up, and he was going to be like Dom DiMaggio's replacement in center field in Boston. But because they had Dom, they moved him to shortstop, and he was a very good center fielder. Played center field his whole life, and really fought it. He did not want to move to shortstop. Took it as a personal offense, but he was bipolar. And he had, breakdowns, did crazy things, get in fights. There was a classic fight he got into with Billy Martin in the dugout when he was playing against Billy Martin. Like, Billy Martin came into the dugout and just started pummeling him. He used to have a squirt gun, and he would, like, squirt home plate when the umpire would make a bad call. He was crazy, but a good ball player. And they came out with medicine for bipolarism. And once he got on that medicine, he was all right, But then he became, I guess, he was part with Harry Carey.
Yeah, with the White Sox.
They became possibly the most famous, most popular announcer team with the White Sox in history. Yep. People loved him because he was brutally honest, and he would insult the players, and he'd get real mad if they didn't run balls out, and he would criticize them.
Moose Skowron was like that a little bit too, because they'd have him on with the White Sox. He was an ambassador for the White Sox after his playing days, and came back to Chicago because he's originally from here. And he was brutally honest. We had a lot of brutally honest previous players. Doug Buffone, who played for the Bears, did radio here locally in Chicago and would bash the players and didn't care. Just it was brutally honest.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but who was the coach? Was it Tony La Russa? I think it was Tony La Russa, and Jim Leland was one of his coaches, and he was bashing them, and they like got together with another coach. There were 3 of them, and they like went after him and confronted him. I mean, his story is just fascinating.
Yeah,
and of course he wrote a book, Fear Strikes Out, and then they turned it into a movie with Anthony Perkins, but Jimmy Pearsall hated the movie. He said it wasn't accurate. You know how Hollywood does with books and stories. They sensationalized it, but and the worst part about that movie is if you watch it, Anthony Perkins can't even throw. He's throwing like you would throw with your opposite hand.
Right.
I mean, he doesn't look anything like he can play baseball. That drives me crazy in movies. It's like Bagger Vance.
That's the golf movie, right? Will Smith.
Yeah, but his golf swing was so god awful. Like, there's no way on earth anybody that plays golf would believe that he was this great golfer. Matt Damon.
Oh, Damon.
All right, I'm going to jump off. I'm going to turn it over to my man Jake. I've talked enough.
I just want to say,
if you have any viewers left, Sammy, I apologize if you don't.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I just want to say I'm going to take over while in your absence and make sure that everyone has a good time. You know what I mean?
Hey, Sammy, we're going to have some fun in New York in August, though, right?
Oh, absolutely, man. But let's not jump ahead of ourselves. We got the National coming up,
All right, see you guys.
All right.
Good seeing all you.
Have a good night, John.
Take care, John. Thanks for jumping on, man.
But let me go on a little bit of a rant here, real quick.
Okay, go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say.
So I think if you get autographs, I don't collect autographs, but if you did collect autographs, they would have to be rare.
Oh, absolutely.
Rare autographs. So this is something that you would want to get autographed TTM, because this is a custom Perez Steele, Ryan Sandberg autographed, or something even more rare. This is a letter from Luca's collection with a paragraph written to him from Bert B. Home Bly-Levin, a great pirate, Bert Bly-Levin.
Master of the curveball, if I might say, you know.
Jake, is Ryan Sandberg still doing TTM? Do you know?
The Ryan?
I actually don't know, since they announced that he's a lot sicker than he was.
He's and being in Chicago, I get a little update. So he's supposedly, he comes out every now and then, said he's feeling better, doing better, but obviously, there's a lot going on there. But I didn't even know he TTM'd. I'm a Sox fan, but all my friends are Cub fans. So
I've had that one for about a year or so.
Okay.
So
I
haven't tried him since the news. I'd already gotten a letter and my custom signed. So
sure.
Jake, I have an unrelated question for you. I've always been curious because I know you post on the Facebook groups for the cards you have. Are those doubles that you have, or are they just cards? Are you also buying up stuff these days?
Very secretively, I have bought and resold for almost 3 years.
Okay, I just wasn't sure because I'm like, I know your collection runs that deep, but I just wasn't sure if because I saw you had you had a 59 Mays and you had all these big cards up for sale. I'm like, man, this guy runs deep, man. How many doubles of 59 Mays does he have?
Well, most of the time, whatever you see for sale, I probably have one, or I would have talked myself into trying to keep it. Ask Dom.
Are you finding these cards through are you buying them through Facebook groups? Or are you finding them in the wild?
Some in the wild, and one of the main sources, I have a connection with I'll just say a dealer that's big that you saw in Strongsville. I buy a lot from.
Okay. We'll leave it at that then.
At more of a wholesale rate.
Gotcha. Makes sense. But I don't know. I was showing earlier these 77. What's going on over there? Sounds like a boat is passing by.
I was opening the drawer to the big unit. Sorry, I meant to mute myself, but I didn't.
Okay, that's fine. That's actually made it a lot funnier. I was showing these 77s earlier. No, these are the O-Peaches. I was showing these earlier. Unfortunately, if you're blind, you can't really see this. Can't really see it either way. But yep, I got these O-Peaches today at the Garfield show from a dealer that watches my channel. He was actually set up at the show. He was selling on behalf of somebody else. I just thought these were just for O-Peaches. I've never seen them in quite as good of condition. So,
I only see rare, and those I can kind of see.
No, man, no. These aren't rare at all. I've seen a million of these. I actually, come on, man. I have these all in those tubs. I have 5,000 Nolan Ryans. I mean, they're not in the same condition, of course, but I mean, I bought them back in the 90s when they were 25 cents.
I keep them in my other room that Don Field of Dreams always is bragging that he's seen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just there's only a handful of people that have been in this museum that I'm gonna build. I'm building a museum, by the way. I don't think I told anybody yet, but I'm breaking the news on the For Collectors channel. I'm building a museum. It's gonna be in my room.
It's part of the quest.
There was a day where I think I don't know if it was a live stream or not, but Mangini he was like, I have my collection. He didn't I forgot exactly how he said it, but he's like, I think he said like I have so many cards. And I was like, oh, that's a sound bite. If I wish I could have recorded that, but he's like, I have so many cards. But I'm like, you do, man. You have a lot of them. You have a lot of them. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again in a few months.
Yeah, so everybody's headed to the National. Jake and Dom, you guys are going?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Dom was persuaded by Jake.
Yeah, I was coaxed into returning.
It's actually funny. So Dom and I roomed last year, and so I asked Dom if he wanted to. Dom's like, I don't think I'm going to go, but Jake is looking for somebody. I'm like, okay. Reach out to Jake. Jake's like, yeah, absolutely. And Jake's like, hey, Drew's looking for a place. I'm like, okay, we can put him on the sofa. And so then Jay's like, hey, Dom wants to go. And I'm like, did you persuade him to go? And he goes, yeah, I persuaded them.
It's like, I'll sleep on the floor. It'll be fine.
Well, then I recently I asked again because I forgot that you were bringing an air mattress.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully extended doesn't see this video. But I don't think, honestly, it's going to be so chaotic. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. We'll hardly be there anyways. Sleep a little.
I actually my intention wasn't to go. And I think on a few lives in the past, I was telling you, Sammy, well, I'm probably not going to go. Strongsville was enough for me. And then after Strongsville, meeting everybody, I said, well, I got to go. Yeah. And I had Dave, Legends of the Dugout, reach out to me about potential.
Dave.
Yeah, about potential spots. So I'm like, yeah, I'm in. I'm going. So, and now I'm on a string of I'm on some kind of string of like 24 content creators on one message string. I don't even know who everybody who's on. I don't even know everybody. I'm like, who are these people? And I'm just seeing numbers. So you got to call out who you are. If you guys were on there, I apologize. I didn't know it. So
how far travel you got, Jason? Where are you at, man?
I'm in Chicago. I'm just outside of Chicago. So
okay.
I drove to Strongsville, which was about 5 hours, and this will be another 40 minutes on top of that. So I'll probably drive and then spend 3 or 4 days there. But I much prefer it when it's in Chicago because it's about 25 minutes from my house. So, and actually, last year I parked. Sammy, you stayed at it was the Intercontinental, right? Is that where you stayed next to the embassy or whatever that hotel is next to it?
The Sheridan, I guess.
Sheridan, yeah. So I have a friend of mine who's works there, and he was able to give me a parking spot. So I was able to park right in front, walk across the street, and just go. And it was a blast. So
yeah, the last time I went was in Atlantic City 2 years ago. That's where Dom and I met for the first time, and I hadn't been in 9 years prior to that, so no YouTube stuff the first go round. Second time was way better with all of that. And I couldn't tell Dom or Sammy or the rest of our little group chat why this might be my last one for a while. But now everyone knows because I'm having another baby.
Oh, man. Congratulations.
Fantastic. Second child?
Yep, second little boy.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Legends never die. Junior. The third?
Junior. I stopped at 2. 2 was my limit. And my babies are much older, 24 and 21. So.
Oh, they're the same age as Dom.
Yeah.
Almost.
Well, I wasn't. Garrett was on one of the lives, and he said, "Yeah, I just turned 21." I said, "Jesus, Garrett, so did my daughter." So I felt really old at that.
Yeah, Orlando.
Yeah. Orlando should jump on here. I sent him a link to do so, but
yeah, tell him to. Actually, Sammy, I'm gonna cut out. I just got home from my cottage about 4 hours ago. So
come on, man, the party's only starting.
I saw you crack one, and I didn't have one here. I wasn't gonna leave. I'm gonna crack one as soon as I get off here. So,
man, I finished 2 of them already, man.
You take care of business. I appreciate you having me on, though, Sammy.
Thanks, man.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Tom, it was awesome talking with you guys.
Good talking to you, Jason.
Nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
All right. Take care, Jason. Oh man.
Where's the Drew?
Yeah, that's a good question. That would he hasn't been in the chat, so I know he's not. I don't think he's here. But yeah, it would have been, that would make it complete because we're all. I mean, this would be like a nice little preparation live stream where we just talk about what we're gonna
I
do.
think we could plan that as we get closer. We could plan a live, the four of us. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Well, I guess it sounds like Jake's gonna do all the driving.
Me or the Drew, man. Well,
is Drew driving? Oh, I thought you. Oh, are you and Drew are driving together, or
Drew is driving to me from Georgia, and then we're driving together to Ohio. We're leaving on Tuesday at like 4 a.m. It's going to be ridiculous.
Wow. Man, so you're probably going to get there for Tuesday. Tuesday. Is it Wednesday morning 4 a.m. or
Tuesday morning 4 a.m. because I have a way to get in on day 0. So we'll be there for that.
Like Tuesday, are you stopping along the way, or are you going all the way through?
I'm sure I will let the Drew buy me breakfast at like McDonald's or something.
Right.
But mostly we're gonna drive through, man. I'm gonna listen to like 3 stories from the Drew, and we'll be there.
That's I will say one thing I will say is I've never driven with anybody from the YouTube community up until driving with Brian with B-Roth, and driving there and even driving back the 7 hours went by so quickly because it's we just the conversation just keeps going, so it does become incredibly helpful to have somebody with you. Somebody who's also a content creator, and but like when I drove with Mookie and Pete, which by the way, they said they're going to be at the National at their Airbnb. They're going to be hosting a brouhaha, a nice little gathering of sorts. Yeah, Mookie's right here. We drove to Philly. Yeah, absolutely, we drove to Philly, man. And that honestly was one of the best drives I've ever gone on because Mookie and his buddy Pete just rag on each other the entire time, and it made it such a comical experience. So they're both going to be there. That's going to be, yeah. Mookie is awesome. He is awesome. He was at the Garfield show today, and I mentioned this earlier, but I don't think you guys were in here yet. So I bought the Seaver, the Venezuelan, and I paid. I wanted it for a certain price. I had to pay $25 more because the dealer wanted to split the difference. And so I was like, I don't really want to do that. So then Mookie was there witnessing when I bought it. And he goes, I'll go to your table and I'll buy something for $25 just to offset.
Nice.
And he did. And I was like, I kept telling him, like, you don't have to do that. He's like, no, I want to see this deal go down. And I'm like, okay. All right, man. That's we'll do it. But Mookie's good people, man. It's I've been trying to convince him to come on a live stream, and it seems like I got somewhat close today because Pete was like, I'll go on if you go on. I was like, okay, I might be getting somewhere. I'm gonna just stand back and see if Pete can convince him. But
well, so Sammy, you asked me a question at the top, so now it's my turn to ask you a question.
Yeah.
So it's May. We're still a few months out from the National, but like since your approach is going to be a little bit different than a collector who doesn't also sell to collect, I think is what you say.
That's what I do. Yeah.
Have you started already like angling towards your plan for the National since we're like 2.5 months out, or not yet?
Absolutely. I have a budget set in mind as far as how much I want to bring with me. And I kind of ruined that today by buying this, by buying the Venezuelan. But I'm very pleased with it because now I'm going to move my Topps 65 Seaver. That said, setting up a card shows was my method of kind of rebuilding the budget. That's kind of just how it's been. And but I'm going to scale back a little bit in terms of how many shows I'm going to do. I have 2 shows that I'm going to continue dedicating myself to, which is the Fishkill show and the Milford show. I'm going to continue doing those 2. the Garfield shows, I'm going to scale back. I think honestly, there's a little bit too much competition in terms of the vintage area. I think there's guys that have just huge inventories that just kind of blast their mind, and today didn't go as nearly as well as I would hope, but actually that's going to lead into something I wanted to try on my channel, which was to do some sort of online showcase or video showcase of some cards that I was interested in selling, just to see if there was any sort of interest. I've always been hesitant, but I got a full tub of some stuff here that I might try to put out there to see if anybody is interested.
Yeah, I was curious because I'm definitely there with my stuff. As I know both you guys know, I'm trying to get enough cash on hand so I can buy a T206 green background Ty Cobb. And so I'm very much focused on trying to get as much cash on hand as I can to make that happen. So I'm very much in sell mode right now and safe. I'm not buying anything for inventory right now because I've got probably 1,500 cards, individual cards still for sale. So I'm not buying inventory at the moment. I'm just selling right now.
It's probably the wise move because it's if you have a lot of inventory, it's I mean, it's hard not to buy stuff when there's an opportunity to buy stuff. Like today and yesterday, I bought stuff because the opportunity was too good to pass on. So like I bought these two Robin Yount rookies for a nice price. They were in great shape. I mean, and then I can't help myself. And then
I'm trying to do the same thing, and Dom knows I already did that this week.
The tunnel vision sort of.
Trying not to buy stuff, and I did.
It's just when you think you're doing well that something comes up and gets in the way.
I mean, I saw this, and I was like, I saw this at the Fishkill show, and I thought, it's a 5 Koufax 59. I mean, 59 seem to be taking off pretty nicely these days. So, but the good thing about selling online is that, I mean, if you have the proper shipping materials, which I know you do, Jake, and because clearly I can attest to that with this beautiful 54. What a great story that was, right?
It is. That's such a fun story. It's so crazy how that worked out.
I don't know if I had no, I definitely had the YouTube channel at that point. But I didn't realize that it was you that sold me the card.
I didn't realize it was you because I didn't know your last name.
Yeah, I know. So it was just fate. And I remember the interaction with like, listen, man, this is our first sale together. You got to do PayPal goods and services.
Yeah. And now looking back on it, it's like, really? You goods and service to me, Sammy? Wow, couldn't trust me. Jeez.
But what a beautiful card. I'll never give this one up. The story is too good, and I love the 54 set, obviously. So it holds a special place. But yeah, no, I think I mean, selling online with the right cards, it seems you can move things really fast. Obviously, I've seen your claim sales, and I mean, things moved fast for you, so that's always promising.
Yeah. I've always tried to do mine kind of under the radar. I only really talk about it on lives. I have skated around it once on my own channel. But for me, the Facebook groups have been my bread and butter. I haven't set up at a single show, not in 3 years, not one. For time purposes for me, having Luca and everything else that I do, the Facebook groups is just easier because I can just post whenever. I keep all the pictures on my phone, and whenever I've got some spare time, I throw them up. I wish I could go, set up at shows and do stuff like you do, because stuff walks up to the table. You're able to buy stuff from other other people that are there, different opportunities.
Yeah, it absolutely. I mean, there has been those opportunities, but there's advantages to both. So, question, Dom, are you going to come to Milford at the end of May?
Potentially can do that. Yeah, it's not too super far from me, so we can definitely plan a little meetup there. That'd be fun. I'm not buying too much right now. I've been trying to be good, but like you guys, I also had something that popped up that was on, I guess, like my shorter list of things, and it was at a price I couldn't pass up. So I have this 1937 Dixie lid of Carl Hubble that I got at the Shriner show last year, I believe. And what you do is you'd send these premiums in, send these in for the full size color premiums, those Dixie lids, which they were trashed a lot of the time because they were ice cream handled by kids. But
hold on,
they have full size color premiums, which there's a little glare there from the baggie, and got a whole write up and pictures of his throwing motion on the back and the full size color image from the Dixie lid, which is to me really awesome to be able to have these two things together.
That's really cool.
So I got that for what I thought was below its value, and I was happy to do that. But for the most part, for things that just pop up, you can see it every day. I'm just holding steady so I can be in Cleveland with you guys and have a little bit of money to throw around at some opportunities there as well.
So Sammy, since it's on live and you guys will watch my video later, I will show you the item that I purchased, but you have to play the same game that I make Dom play.
Okay.
You get to ask yes or no questions, and I'll answer all of them, and you narrow it down to try and figure out what the item is. And I won't make you do it forever like I do Dom. You do it for a few, and then I'll show you just for fun.
I mean, I'm terrible at this. So
think real general.
I'm supposed to ask questions that lead to the card.
Yep. Yes, no questions that lead to the item.
Is it someone from the Braves?
No.
Oh, then I'm ruined. Is it pre-war?
It is pre-war era, yes.
I'm definitely ruined. I could. Okay. Is it a T206?
No.
Is it a T205?
No.
Is it a Hall of Famer?
No.
I mean, what are we doing here? I mean,
you want to help him, Dom? Ask a question. You know what it is, but
I do know what it is. So I feel like it's weird for me to play the game, but think more general, like asking what type of item it is, or what league the player played in, or what position they played. Like things like that can potentially help you narrow it. This one's actually a tough one.
Is it an oversized?
Why I'm surprised he tried it.
Is it an oversized item, or is it?
Yes.
Okay. Is it a premium?
No.
All right. Is it an infielder?
Yes.
National League or
National League?
Oh man.
Think I'll help you a little. Think like segments of things that I collect and narrow it down.
Just show the card. It's been a long weekend.
Think of the 32 segments of my collection and try
to narrow it down.
Yeah.
I can't.
It's okay. I also started you out with probably the hardest thing to guess from my collection. So it's a pre-war era player, more famous for something other than baseball. Autograph. Do you know who Billy Sunday is?
No, I don't.
Okay, he was in the old Judge set. He played baseball in the 1890s, and after his baseball career, he was a fast infielder, outfielder for the Chicago White Stockings, the Pirates, and the Phillies. Was his last team, and he beat Arlie Latham in a foot race
one time, who was known as the fastest man in the American League, stole over 600 bases. He's in the T206 set. But Billy Sunday retired from baseball in order to become an evangelist.
Oh my God, that's wow.
So he was an evangelistic pastor in the early 1900s after being a professional baseball player. He was so big and so popular that during World War I, often he was front page news instead of the war. Billy Sunday, very famous.
That's pretty amazing. Was he a religious man prior to baseball as well? And
the story goes is he was actually playing baseball, and he was out with some other baseball players walking down the street, and heard some hymns that were familiar to him that his mother apparently sang when he was younger, and he was converted then. And I've watched a couple documentaries to brush up on him lately, but he was teammates with Mike King Kelly, who is known to be like a crazy person in that era. And even Mike King Kelly like supported him and said, if that's, the way you want to go, we support you, because that wasn't common as a baseball player in that era. So he was a baseball player, was converted, played a couple more seasons, and then got out of baseball and became an evangelist.
Amazing. I'm looking at his Wikipedia page now. Played 1883 to 1890, 248 batting average. He had a National League pennant in 1885 and 86. He was an outfielder, and he's from Iowa. He passed away in Chicago. But as Dan was saying in the
discovered by Cap Anson.
Cap Anson discovered him?
Yeah, apparently the story goes that Cap Anson had an aunt that lived in the same town where Billy Sunday was playing amateur ball, and the aunt insisted that he come up there to see him, and he sent a scout up there, and I can't remember who it was, but it's another guy that was a Hall of Famer, and he signed Billy Sunday to a contract. Crazy.
I'm also seeing he was married to a woman named Helen and Thompson Sunday, and she has her own Wikipedia page. Crazy. Well, that's remarkable. That's something I would not expect, but that's a great story.
Yeah. So
good photo of him here.
Loving baseball, and that's what I do for a profession.
Sure, that hits home for you.
And I've kind of been on the lookout for one, and they usually sell for like $400 to $500 or so. And they don't pop up that often. I mean, it's a signature in the pre-war era, and I got this one for like 2/3 of that, so I couldn't say no.
I got an interesting story to share myself. Let me see if I can grab the card. It's a T206 of let's see. Hang on a second. I'll do a full screen on this. Bugs Raymond.
Yeah.
You guys are familiar with Bugs Raymond?
Mm-hmm.
You know the story about him?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'll share this. Bugs Raymond, obviously it was a pitcher for the New York of McGraw's Giants, and so Bugs Raymond was an alcoholic, heavy drinker, drank way too much, died young. But what's interesting about the story is that my great-grandfather, when he was a kid, what I've heard is that he went to a Polo Grounds game that Bugs Raymond was, I guess he was pitching in. And after the game was over, I guess, or a couple hours later, my great-grandfather was walking with my great-great-grandfather, I guess, on Amsterdam Avenue in the, I guess this would have been like West Harlem or really far, I mean, where the Polo Grounds were essentially, and saw a bartender throwing out a guy that was still in his baseball pants, his cleats, his uniform, everything. And he overheard the bartender saying, "All right, Bugs, I think you've had enough," essentially, and threw him out. And like just feet away from Bugs Raymond. And so my great grandfather, like at the time, didn't know who the player was, and but he remembered like the name Bugs, like that stuck with him. But didn't. But he was he was 5 or 6 years old, so he couldn't really collect what he was seeing. And so the story, I guess, like passed on, but it never really knew who it was. And so, but we knew like he was a heavy drinker. That's all we knew. That he was being thrown out of a bar. And so years later, when I go to a show, obviously years and years and years later, I go to a show and I see this card, and the dealer tells me the story about Bugs Raymond. I hear the name Bugs, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, and it start connecting dots. And he tells me that Bugs was an alcoholic, and there's only one New York Giants player named Bugs, as far as I know. I had to get the card for that very reason, and I was able to connect a family history moment that happened in the early 20th century that my great-grandfather experienced. So that's why I still have this card, and that my great-grandfather was toe-to-toe with Bugs Raymond.
That's such a cool story, man. I love that.
Yeah. So I was thinking about having that one graded. I might do it at some point, but
yeah, you don't need that.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I was thinking about doing it for the next live stream. If you're down for it, I was thinking about doing a live stream where I'd have somebody who prefers not to grade stuff versus someone who likes to grade stuff. Not to have some sort of fight, but just to kind of talk it through and understand why someone likes to grade versus why someone doesn't like to grade.
Well, if I graded all these cards, it'd cost me like $1 million.
That's why I started the Mangini Company, and it doesn't cost a dime, except you got to pay for the slab, Just, I mean, I'm not charging grading fees, but I will charge to have a Mangini slab. It's not that much though. Just a little bit here and there. Just make sure you send me some unique cards, because I don't want to slab some like Junk Wax 1993 David Justice. I don't need that in my life.
Hashtag the quest.
Also, I got your application, Jake, to join the Misfits, and I don't want to make any promises, but things are looking good. You might. I got to talk with a couple of the other Misfits, and just see if we can work things out. This national might look good for you.
That's quite contrary to you guys setting up that contest with Rick to not let me win. So,
well, there's a time and place for everything, and I think we'll have a nice conversation at the YouTube gathering, about if we can make some moves to try to squeeze you in an unoccupied position. I think there's a chance that we can always use a commissioner,
Mm.
All right, I'll stop. All right. So we'll probably end on this note, unless you guys have anything else you want to just bring up before we finish.
Nah, man. Happy to join in for a few minutes.
Yeah, same here, man.
I did want to say the Crack in Cooperstown, I'm still listening to it. It was like a 2-hour-long podcast, which was great. No, I'm not saying that in a bad way. I think it's great because it's such an interesting topic. You're covering so many different players that are like future Hall of Famers, potentially future Hall of Famers. And I was curious. I was going to ask you, if you guys don't mind me bringing this up, and maybe you brought it up later in the conversation. Madison Bumgarner, was he in there? I didn't listen to the full podcast yet. So Mad Bum is not on your list at all.
Mad Bum is going to go MIA off the grid. Like, we're never going to hear from Madison Bumgarner again. Like, that is probably the end of it. He's a postseason legend, but he just doesn't have Hall of Fame numbers or hardware.
Right?
No. His career was those championships that he helped win with the Giants. Solid numbers, but nothing special.
That his peak moment was kind of the end. I mean, after that, he really fell off hard, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Tar Heel. He's from right down the road.
I'm looking at his stats. He has 134 wins, 3.47 ERA, 2,070 strikeouts. Yeah, he's fallen off, but cool. I just wanted to bring that up real fast. So I'm going to listen to the rest of it at some point. But thank you guys for jumping on. I appreciate just having a nice casual conversation with you guys.
Yeah, man.
No, it's always a pleasure, man.
And we'll definitely catch up sooner than we know it because, the Nationals right around the corner. So thank you. Everybody in the chat, we definitely, I think we hit like 60 people at one point, which is remarkable for this channel. So thank you, everybody, for hopping on to watch the Four Collectors live stream. I got to figure out, I know I'm flirting with the idea of doing a grading versus non-grading. So I'll talk to you, Jake, about that because I think you'd be perfect for that video if you have time.
Yeah, man.
But anyway, thank you guys so much. Oh, what's that?
Just be balanced, man. Collect the cards you want. It doesn't matter if they're in a holder or not.
That's a good way. Absolutely.
Is that a Hall of Famer we can crack on Cracking Cooperstown there, Dom?
Not this one, no. Low pop.
All right, guys. Have a good night. We'll talk soon. Listen to Cracking Cooperstown on Spotify, or is it on your channel, Jake? Is that how you guys know?
Yeah.
But great. It's a great podcast. I am a huge advocate for it. I listen to it whenever I have to travel far distances for card shows because it's such a great, easy ride to listen along with. So take care, guys. Thank you so much. Have a good night. See you later.